Alright, this is called Keys to the Kingdom. So, many people have the problem of reading the Bible and not understanding it, especially people my age, people in their early 20s or even their late teens. So, when people read the Bible, they have problems with the King James Version, the thou art thy, come hither, and all that. Well, not to mention there being so many different versions. Personally, I like the NIV. It doesn't really matter which one you read. But what I want to reveal to you today is how Jesus spoke everything in parables. I mean, literally everything. He spoke everything. Why do you speak to people in parables? Just everything Jesus spoke in parables. And a parable is just something that has a double meaning, or it can be like a riddle, Jesus taught me himself, and after I go over this amazing secret with you, he will also reveal personal message to you all as well. In Matthew, the first book in the New Testament, Jesus says in Matthew 13:35, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things hidden since the creation of time. A parable is like a metaphor, or words with more than one meaning. Like saying she is so hot. We know she's not on fire, but she's pretty or beautiful. Because we were told at some point what the double meaning was by someone else. Jesus spoke in so many parables or riddles that even his own disciples or followers asked him in Matthew 13:10-15, right there, Lord, why do you speak to the people in parables? Jesus replied, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Though seeing they do not see, though hearing they do not hear or understand, in them was fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. And Matthew 13:15 says, for this people's hearts has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. So what it was is the people were so materialistic, they didn't really worry about seeking the spiritual teachings. So if knowledge is the key to unlocking deeper teachings, but kept hidden from the people distracted by worldly things, we must first turn toward a spiritual perspective. So instead of looking at words as physical things like bread or seeds, we must have new eyesight, new ears, almost like being reborn. Okay, let's take a small parable first and find the key words that may have a metaphor or double meaning. Look at Matthew 15:26 and 27. This is the parable right here. And I'm just picking out 26 and 27 to make it simpler for time's sake, but you can actually go up to 21 right here and read the whole thing. I always read whatever I'm looking at, I read the paragraphs before and the paragraphs after, just to make sure I don't leave anything out. Okay. I'm going to leave that up. Alright. Let's take a small parable. Metaphor double. Alright, Matthew 15:26-27. Jesus replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Yes, it is, Lord, she said. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Now, we can take it as actual children, actual bread, and actual dogs, an actual table, and even an actual master if you want. But if you look at it spiritually, it's totally different. Now, I know I didn't read the whole chapter 15, but after I show you the keys to unlock the spiritual teachings, we will go back over the whole verse. So in this parable, I see three key words with spiritual meanings. First being children. Look at Matthew 18:2. Jesus' disciples were arguing who was the greatest in the kingdom of heaven among themselves. Jesus. Jesus called a little child to him and placed the child among them, and he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes a lowly position or humbles themselves as this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." So, now we know a child could be someone who humbles themselves or that takes a lowly position. So now we plug in the first key. It is not right to take people that humble themselves or children's bread and toss it to the dogs. The next key is bread. And in John 6:48, it talks about the bread. So 6:48 through 53, we're going to kind of just jump through this that way. But there's the whole verses, if you want to look at all of them. Start from, well, I'll just zoom out so you can see it all. Alright. Jesus said in 6:48, "I am the bread of life." Again in verse 51, a couple sentences down, "This bread is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world." So clearly, in these parables or words with other meanings, the bread is his flesh. So what is the flesh? Go to John chapter 1, verse 1. John chapter 1, verse 1, it shows. And you can pause this so you can actually read it. But it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning." Alright, now go down to John 1:14. It says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." Talking about Jesus. So we found out the bread is the flesh, is the Word. So the bread is the teachings of Jesus. Now we have the second key. It is not right to take people that humble themselves, teachings, to the dogs, or people that humble themselves, the children's bread, and give it to the dogs. You know. Okay, the final key to understanding this teaching is dogs. In Philippians 3, 1 through 2, let me find it over here. Alright. It says, "Watch out for those dogs, those evildoers, those mutilators of the flesh, or mutilators of the word." Because God is consistent, so you can use these same keys of understanding throughout the whole Bible. He's never changing. Alright. It is not right. Okay, Philippians. "Furthermore, brothers and sisters, rejoice in the Lord. It is no trouble for me to write the same things to you again, as is a safeguard for you. Watch out for those dogs, those evildoers, those mutilators of the flesh, or mutilators of the word, or teachings." So a dog is someone who isn't familiar with, or they could still be new to it, so they still hold on to their earthly ways, like a wild animal. Now that we finally have all three keys of understanding, we are ready for a deeper spiritual meaning, rather than what appears on the surface. So those who have ears can actually hear. We all have ears, or we all have eyes, but it's talking about having the words of understanding, the keys to opening the door, opening your mind. And now it reads, "It is not right to take the people that humble themselves teachings and give it to someone that doesn't know God." And the woman said, "Yes, it is, Lord, but even people that don't know God, or the dogs, eat the small teachings or crumbs that fall from their master's table," or the Bible. Because, you know, in Matthew it says no one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Where does it say that at? 1 second. I can't find it right now, but alright. It says, you remember when Jesus said in Matthew 13:35, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of time. That's just it. Hidden in Jesus' parables were things written in the Old Testament, and things in the Old Testament help to reveal things in Revelations. In Mark 4:13, the parable of the sower is one of the few parables Jesus explained. The same parable in Matthew 13. But in Mark 4:13, Jesus said to his disciples, don't you understand this parable? How then will you understand any parable? Then he goes on to explain what thorns, seed, the sun, or fire, fields, farmer, rocks, birds, good soil, and multiplied harvest, each having a spiritual meaning as well as a physical. But God is so consistent, you can take those keywords and unlock other parables. All of these keys help you to grow closer to Jesus. He will personally lead you or teach you. Jesus says in Luke 24:44 and 45, this is what I told you while I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms. Then he opened their minds so that they could understand the scriptures. Alright. Well, what's important also, I want to show you, is that Jesus tells Peter that he will give him the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Alright, 1 second. Okay, so right here it shows. Alright. The keys to the kingdom. The reason why I call them the keys to the kingdom is because the experts in law, once they asked Jesus, or Jesus said to the experts in law in Luke 11:52, he says, woe to you experts in law, because you have taken away the key to knowledge. You yourselves have not entered and have hindered those who were entering. And then in Matthew 23:13, again it says, woe to you teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. So these keys unlock the door to the kingdom of heaven that allows you to personally have this beautiful experience with Jesus. And even here it says the coming of the kingdom of God is not something that can be observed, nor will people say here it is or there it is, because the kingdom of God is within. So if the kingdom of God is within yourself, and he's saying he would give Peter, he tells Peter, I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, right here. Right here. He says, right here, I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. So if he's telling Peter that he'll give him the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and you know that the kingdom of heaven's within, but the keys are just these parables, those words with multiple meanings, multiple teachings. And he says in Revelations that he stands at the door and knocks. Let me see. Where's it at? Right here. And this is Revelations 3:20. It says, here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. And we know that the food is knowledge, or teachings. Praise you, Father. See? And he says, I praise you, Father. And this is in Matthew 11:25-26. Praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. So it's talking about hiding these teachings from people that are worldly and reveal them to people that are humble, like a child would be, open-minded and humble. Okay? So I'm just going to show each one of these, and you can pause it and actually read. This goes in a little more in depth, but I know this video is quite long, so. But these are the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and if you want to read any more, if you like this video and you want a deeper teaching, or if you find words with double meanings, parable, I'd love it if you leave it in the comments, and you know, eventually once you find your own keys, you can come back and teach me some new things. You know, like it says, let iron sharpen iron. Or, you know, you could yield an abundant harvest and then therefore have to, you know, share what you've grown. Alright, thanks guys. Thanks a lot. This is Nathan and Amber. Like and subscribe.